guys, so this is What If Deku was Kryptonian Part 5. Now, this is what if I wanted to do for a pretty long time. Basically, pretty much, not what if I want to do for a long time, but this is a what if I wanted to, make another Part 2. Last video, Part 4 didn't really get that many views. I think it did, I didn't really check. Part 4 only got 85 views, so I hope this one does a little bit better. And some people go back to watch Part 4. But basically, guys, I'm going to do a little recap of Part 4. Part 4 is basically just Deku and doing the, Deku doing the, I think, city attack that was being, pretty much forced in the city by the Nomus and everything else. And if you don't know, the DC Universe has made a big impact on on pretty much My Hero Academia, since the DC Universe does semi-exist in here. Like, the original pretty much most of the Justice Leaguers do or are the versions in America, are the heroes in America. But basically what happened is we see that Deku would have pretty much gotten ready for the next day, because after he was beaten by Stain, when Stain got his hands on some kryptonite blade that somebody on the League of Villains were supplying them with, we will see later from that point, we see that Deku would have been pretty much getting ready for, well, the camping trip, for the training arc, or the forest training arc. Now, as they would get on the bus, they would drive there, and basically Deku would just start talking, blah, blah, just start, being him. So I had to talk to Ochaku. Now, I forgot who I shipped Deku with. I think I shipped him with Ochaku or Momo, but he hasn't gotten a relationship just yet. So basically, I most likely will ship him with Momo or Ochaku, but you guys can go in the comments and tell me who do you prefer. Maybe even Mineta, but just get that off the thing. Basically, what would happen doing this? We see them make their way to the bus. Basically, them getting out the bus. And basically, what happened after this? Pretty much, they would still be given the same response. Basically, Deku being very confused and saying, "Why are we, not being drove down there?" And they pretty much are kicked off the side of the hill, or the side of the cliff that led it to the forest that the Wild Pussycats owned. Basically, they would get up after they fell, Deku flying down all gently like, and him grabbing Momo and Ochaku and flying them down safely, because they were the closest ones near him when they fell. Basically, after this, they would go against some sort of rock monsters after they were told that they had to make their way through the forest against these rock monsters all the way to the base. Basically, them saying this is the first time, or their first day of training. Basically, after this, they would be told to do this, and Deku would just take the easy way out and just fly. To be honest, he would just fly through the forest and eventually just go right up over the forest. And pretty much one of the Wild Pussycats would have seen this, the blonde-haired one, and she would have used most of her power to make a huge rock monster the size of King Kong trying to catch Deku as he flies. Deku would fly around it and just take it down easily with just a laser beam through the chest. Deku would fly off, basically eventually landing down in front of the place. Basically, the whole entire fight with the giant rock monster would have lasted a little bit longer, over like 15 minutes, since it would smack Deku around left and right. But eventually, Deku would just laser it down the middle with some laser vision, plus his energy blast. Now, basically, what would happen is he would be a little bit tuckered out by using both of his energy. Basically, he would just simmer in the sunlight before it went down, and basically would fly back to the base right when everybody else was making their way there. Now, basically, after that, they would be told it's pretty much, well, they can have their own dinner, and they would be fed and treated. The next day, that's when training started to happen. Now, basically, when training would start to happen, we would see that pretty much Deku and his friends, or Deku and just him alone, would have gotten ready for training. And basically, their first... Okay, so, sorry, I had to do a time skip. So, basically, what would happen... It's pretty much doing the first day of training. Pretty much they would just start to train their quirks. Make them stronger, better, just work on the weak parts of their quirks and try to enhance that. Or not enhance it, but try to pretty much take away the weakness from their quirk and try to make their quirk stronger. Now for Deku, since he was Kryptonian, he doesn't really have a quirk, but he does, well, it looks like a quirk, and plus he wrote it down as a quirk, so he didn't want to expose himself as an alien. So basically what would happen is, doing this, pretty much Deku just focus on his already kind of not perfected abilities he has, like his energy manipulation and his laser vision. Basically, what he would do is pretty much he would team up with Mineta, and Mineta would use his time to train with Deku. Basically, him taking his, sorry, it might sound weird, his sticky balls, and basically using them and basically throwing him towards Deku, and Deku using his laser vision to work on his accuracy, pretty much lasering them, blasting with his plasma beam or energy blast from his hands and his fist, and basically working on his accuracy with his energy manipulation and pretty much solar powers. And basically, what happened is pretty much Mineta would also get a little bit better for pretty much making his scalp a little bit harder so he wouldn't bleed as much, and also enhancing his arm strength to pretty much throw his balls a lot more faster, even curveballing them, and getting a lot more better with his throwing methods and actually making a couple of tricks with them, curveballing them, and even getting so close to make his balls curve and go across or literally turn corners. Pretty much Mineta's skill becoming a little bit better. Now basically what Deku would do is pretty much just enhance his accuracy with his laser vision and his energy beams. Basically building up his, pretty much his process or how fast he absorbs solar radiation or solar beams, and also dishing them out. So basically doing this, pretty much Deku would have basically used most of his strength and also worked on his super strength. I can't talk today. Basically, he would work on his strength in a more, I guess, over exaggerated. He would basically be bench pressing a whole boulder in both hands, basically working on his strength like that. Basically what would have happened doing this, pretty much Deku would have got done with his training, and then we move on to the next day, as I would be given the next thing to do. Basically, the scared or the be scared, or pretty much scare people thing they did, I think, in the original canon. Basically, what would happen as they would run around and get ready for the fight, or not for the fight, but get ready for competition, or pretty much the training, as they would use their quirk to scare each other to the forest. That's when the attack would have happened, and this is where the good part of the story comes into fruition. Now basically what would happen is we would see that Deku wouldn't got ready and would have pretty much not been in his hero costume, would have been in the same outfit that he wore in original canon, the black shorts and red shoes. Basically, he would get ready, and pretty much he was about to join in when the villains started to attack. When the villains started to attack, that's when stuff started to go downhill, because they would attack even harder, since they would have more people on their arsenal. The League of Villains would have had more people on their arsenal, or more on their team, making the fight go way more lopsided than original. But since Deku's in this story, it solved itself out. Now basically what happened doing the League of Villains would have its base characters or its base members still on the team, but it would be changed slightly, a little bit. Basically, most of the original, some classic Superman, Batman, some Flash villains would have been on the team. Now these 3 extra villains that will be on the team are going to be Bane, Bane, another Superman villain, Amazo, and not Amazo, but I think it was, I can't remember, the pretty much, how is it, the android with kryptonite abilities, with the kryptonite in their body. I can't remember his name. I'll probably remember in the next clip. Basically what would happen, and the extra third member on the team would have been Bane, the kryptonite android, and a Flash villain. It would have been Gorilla Grodd. Basically what happened is this is when the story would begin. And basically as the villains would attack, basically pretty much, well, pretty much Shigaraki would have had the main person next to him, pretty much this main person being Lex Luthor, alongside another Superman villain. Well, somebody familiar, or somebody that I've been leaning up to, but it's just gonna appear because I've been hinting to him in small, not very, easy to pick up lines. Now, basically, what happened? We will see that Deku would have started to make his go as the fight, or as the villains would attack. Deku would use his X-ray vision to look around, and pretty much he would see a part of the caves or part of the mountains. For some reason, one area of them would have been covered up by a pretty much a lead covering. Now, as we see this, basically we see that Deku would have pretty much went up the stone to pretty much look at the other kid, I would think the nephew of one of the members of the Wild Wild Pussycats. Now, in this game, the whole entire nut punching scene, I kind of skipped over that because it didn't really happen, since Deku got there a lot more faster, and got there actually faster than the rest of pretty much Aizawa and the teachers got there. Pretty much him not running into the little boy, and him not greeting him. Pretty much him not seeing him in the first half of the episode, other than when they arrived there. Basically, what happened is pretty much Deku would have gone up there, pretty much wanted to save the child, after he would still be told the whole entire story, after the whole entire Mineta and pretty much bathing scene. What happened doing this? You see that Deku would have pretty much started to fly up there on the cave or on the mountain and basically look around. He would see the little boy and pretty much tell him, we gotta go. Basically, him saying, I'm not gonna listen to a hero. Now, Deku would start to reason with him, but eventually, Muscular plus Bane would have shown up. Pretty much, Deku would have told him to run, and pretty much the kid would have said, no, I'm not running, and Deku would have looked at him and tell him to go. He would sprint off down the hill, and basically Bane would try to follow him. Deku would try to stop both of them, and pretty much they would start to double tag Deku. As they would start to fight Deku, we see that Bane would have kicked Deku into a nearby wall. Deku would have gotten up without a scratch, and would have fly right towards him, punching him to the ground, and started to mollywop or literally manhandle Muscular. As Muscular would use most of his power and the top peak of his quirk to go toe-to-toe with Deku, Deku would be holding back, not really wanting to obliterate the mountain with all of his strength because he didn't want to release it. Basically, he would be fighting back against Muscular, them having a little bit of a tussle fight with their hands, basically trying to push each other back, interlocking their fingers. If you give them an image, you get it. Now, basically, what happened is they would start to get out of that lock and basically start to fist to fight each other. Deku fighting both of them left and right, going 1, 2, 3, basically interlocking kicks, blows, laser blasts, and plasma beams towards each other. And basically, eventually, Bane would have gotten the upper hand, and they started to pummel Deku down to the ground into a crater. Deku would have basically got up on this pretty quickly, him losing his temper a little bit, and him grabbing Bane by the arm and chucking him into the forest, as he would literally one-shot Muscular upside the forehead, and basically knocking him out cold. Now, basically, as he would see Kota, I think that's what his name is, the little boy, he would start to run back to the base, as he would see that Bane would have landed right in front of him. Bane wouldn't have gotten up, since he would be hyped up on Venom. His durability would be a lot more better, because this version of Venom would have been an artificial version of a quirk that could get the user similar powers to Muscular, but without the whole entire changing muscle fibers. It would just enhance the muscle fibers to pretty much over normal average quirk levels. As pretty much Bane would start to fight or try to get Kota would start to run away. Eventually him running into Mineta. Now, basically, this would be when Dabi would attack. And basically, pretty much when Dabi would attack, he would attack with, basically, Metallo would have been there. Basically, what happened is Metallo would have been accompanying Dabi doing the attack on pretty much the main area or the base or the camp. Basically, him fighting alongside pretty much Dabi. Now, as he would gain upper hand against Aizawa, seeing that Dabi's clone would have gone there, Amazo would have basically started to go head-to-head with Aizawa. Aizawa losing the fight pretty horribly because Metallo would have been basically just, an anime version of Metallo. Basically, him just having kryptonite in his body and him being made from an android. Basically, him used to being, well, he used to be a human. Basically, pretty much, John Corp or Metallo was trying to fight against Zawa, basically manhandling him. So Zawa wouldn't have really any other, attack against him other than his already existing, fighting skill plus his scarf. Metallo would easily start to pummel Zawa since he would be an android and he wouldn't really be a quirked person. And the kryptonite would have been powering his body. And basically, this being a more fresher version of kryptonite, since it would have been a version of kryptonite just came to Earth, since Deku would be there for about like 16 years, yeah? But whatever. Now basically what happened is pretty much Deku would start to go toe-to-toe with pretty much a couple other villains, like Bane, after Bane would have been stopped because Bane would have been running towards Koto, or was it? I don't remember his name, but basically Koto, I think it was. Basically, he would start to get manhandled by Deku, him knocking out Bane cold and ripping out his pretty much tubes that were giving him the venom. And basically, what would happen is Deku would start to overpower a couple other villains on the way there, eventually running into, pretty much him running into, I think, Teeth Claw, or the guy with the weird knife teeth quirk. Like, that's disgusting. But basically what happened is Deku would have easily broke through his middle pretty much teeth. Basically what would happen is pretty much Deku, it's Echo. Basically what happened is Deku was started to pretty much overpower, I think Blade or Spinner, basically the lizard court guy, and basically start to go against him. Now eventually he would get to the camp, and basically he would see Metallo. Metallo would have looked at him, giving him a glare, and basically would have said, the one person I'm supposed to beat, the main person I'm supposed to beat. Deku would have smirked and said, really? Basically he would fly towards the Mazo, speed blitzing towards him, and he would get stopped instantly 6 feet away since he would already get hit with a blast of kryptonite. Since Amazo's body would have been comprised of a lot of liquid kryptonite melted down in the pretty much tubes in his body, plus the huge chunk of kryptonite in his chest, and 3 crystals on the hydro pumps or the pipes on the back of his body, and also the middle being made out of pretty much the middle on his body being made out of a better, more modified version of titanium. Basically what would happen is pretty much Deku would start to go against Amazo. Now basically Amazo would start to easily overpower Deku since he would be a walking, pretty much Deku's a walking weakness. Pretty much he would start to beat Deku down to a bloody pulp, beating him up like a rag doll. Deku feeling that same Kryptonian, that same kryptonite pain even harder. Now basically Amazo would start to hit him with punch after blow after blow after blow, eventually stabbing him in his chest with a kryptonite blade that was pretty much hid away under a pallet on his wrist. And this would just be a stun gun with kryptonite in it, basically, or stun kryptonite beam, or he could set it to kill. But basically he would start to torture or play with Deku a little bit. Now Deku would have looked at him and basically would have mustered up the last bit of strength he could possibly push out, and he would start to shoot a laser beam into Amazo's chest, pushing him back. Deku would fall into the ground, basically almost having a seizure because he would use so much of his willpower, or just power in general, and most of all his strength, to just muster up that slight little blast of energy. And it would only be the equivalent of like a small firecracker going off on Amazo's chest. So basically Amazo would just walk back to Deku and start to kick him down to the ground. Him saying, "You're a strong one, aren't you?" Basically him saying, the effect of the power source that's giving me this ability is very much hurting you a lot, isn't it? Basically he would start to beat down Deku, pretty much blow after blow after blow, basically beating him up like he's a criminal and Metallo's Batman, just beating him senseless, knocking Deku around like a rag doll. As this would happen, pretty much one of the Pussycat members would have tried to jump in and basically would start to fight against pretty much, well, that would try to fight against Metallo. Metallo would have easily swapped them around like flies, but eventually the Earth member of the Wild Pussycats would have mustered up enough strength that she would actually get kind of pummeled down by Maisel, since the Maisel would fight against the would fight against the Wild Pussycats. He would start to fight against Deku. Basically, what would happen? You don't mind the noise, that's my dog. Basically, what would happen is pretty much the other students would have also saw Maisel as well. They would have tried to join in the fight. Basically, them getting the heads up or the permission to use their quirks as we start to fight against these other villains all around the pretty much full forest. Basically, Deku would start to crawl away, pretty much being accompanied by pretty much Mineta carrying him or dragging him away as far as possible. Eventually, they would find their way at the beginning of the hill that would lead up to the cliff that Deku was originally at when he beat up Muscular and Bane. And basically what would happen is pretty much Muscular would have woken up. As he would walk down the hill and see both of them, seeing Deku lay down on the ground, Deku's veins being green and him looking all sickly, like he has cancer or something. And basically, pretty much Muscular would try to run down as fast as possible towards Deku. Deku would have started to try to get up, but he would be too weakened and he couldn't get up just yet. But he could muster up enough strength to shoot an energy blast towards Muscular, pushing him back from bay. As him and Mineta would start to limp, he wouldn't limp away, but Mineta would have tried to carry him, then hiding into a nearby bush. Deku taking his time to try to re-heal, him seeing that it was a lot of kryptonite he was exposed to so closely and so long. Basically, him saying, I need to get a boost. Basically, him saying, I need some light. And basically, he would say, it's no light. It's literally nighttime, Deku. I can't really help you, Mineta says. Pretty much, Mineta says, I'll go out there and try to find the others and try to warn them. Basically, Deku thinking, or him noticing that Mineta probably thought the kryptonite was toxic. That's why Deku's so weakened by it. And basically, what happened is, technically in this universe, kryptonite is virtually like non-deathly to humans. But if you've seen Lex Luthor's past, Lex Luthor eventually did get cancer from kryptonite, since it isn't poisonous towards humans like it is Kryptonians. It's still an alien material, and I'm pretty sure alien materials aren't used for, stuff like that. And mainly, not a lot of humans have worked with a radioactive version of an alien planet that's been broken or destroyed. So, it would kind of lead to suspicions that you think it would be cancerous. Now, basically, what would happen is pretty much, you would see that Lex Luthor and Shigaraki would have been watching all this, just looking alongside the back lines. As we basically see that Deku would have been using most of his pretty much strength to try to heal up as fast as possible. As Deku would see this, Deku would try to get up as quick as possible, but eventually Deku would have looked in his pocket, him seeing the beeper he got from a Justice League member that I think I didn't narrate, but he did get a beeper from the Justice League. He would start to beep it, but it wouldn't be no signal, since Lex Luthor would put a force field around the south of him calling. Now, Lex Luthor would have put on his suit, or his skin suit, that would give him a little boost of strength, and would have gone out there to look for Deku, since he would have the call from from Metal that Deku would have been injured and would have been looking like he just got hit with cancer, or he was straight up looked like he was dying. And as we would see that Deku would try to get up as fast as possible, we would see that Deku would use most of all the strength left in his body, his normal human strength, to pretty much pull himself upwards onto a tree and lay down there and just lay on the branch trying to regain his strength. As he would focus long and hard, we would see that pretty much, Lex Luthor would have came to the camp and would have saw Maisel pretty much had to go up against all the kids all at once, basically, one-shotting them one-on-one, but eventually most of them overpowering him in terms of number. Maisel would have let out a burst of energy pushing them back, and basically this burst of energy would have been kryptonite. Now kryptonite can still hurt other people, plus Amazo's android body that can literally straight up like shape steel like it's nothing, like it's freaking Play-Doh. Basically his body is pretty built to take out other things than just Kryptonians or just Daku. And basically when Daku would crawl off, we said Daku would have ran into somebody familiar, but not that he remembers, but somebody that's from, well, Krypton. As we would see that it would appear to be a dark-haired version of Daku with red eyes, glowing red eyes. Daku will look up to him and say, what are you? Basically, him being very confused on why it's a version of him. And basically, we see that Daku was trying to crawl himself away and started to gain enough strength to limp away. But pretty much the clone, or not the clone, but this version of him, not the version of him, but somebody in his family would have ran towards Daku and would have grabbed him, saying that this is gonna hurt. He would punch Daku through about 50 trees across the forest, basically flying right on top of him after he would land into a crater, him literally about to pass out, and him coughing up blood, lots of it, because he wouldn't be at full Kryptonian durability or strength. This appeared to be evil version of Daku would have looked at him and would have said, very weird, incredibly. Basically him saying that, I've always wondered who's my brother. Now basically, Daku would have passed out, and we would see that this evil version of him would have just flown off. Now we would go into more context, but basically this evil version of Daku is going to be a appearing villain, and basically going to be replacing this version, and this is going to be this universe's General Zod, and this version of him would have been wearing something like this, but with pretty much a red glowing lines in the seams of the suit. As Daku would pass out, pretty much we switch to the next day when most of the other heroes and the villains would have been scattered away, and Amazo would have retreated with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor would have not found Daku, basically the League of Villains eventually getting away, but they would have been able to capture Daku. Pretty much another group of them would have been able to capture Daku, plus another one of them capturing Bakugo as well. Daku and Bakugo being captured as pretty much in canon, but Daku being added to the roster of people that have been captured. After this, we would see that pretty much Daku later and Bakugo later would have woken up in a chair, them tied together, and Daku having kryptonite chains on his legs and his arms, basically keeping him docile and basically keeping him from using his strength to break out. Basically him feeling weak and woozy. Bakugo would have solved this, and as they would have this, as he was, the news of the kryptonite being some sort of radiation or something, Bakugo would have told Daku that, are you okay? Basically him looking at the cuff saying, Jesus, man, you have radiation on your wrist? Basically him thinking it's radiation because Mineta would have spread the word through the camp or through the forest, through one of the members of the Wild Wild Pussycats, basically that, well, kryptonite was toxic. That's why Daku was so vulnerable to it. Now basically, pretty much Bakugo would have just, tried to scoot away from Daku, but basically we see that they will be surrounded by the villains. Basically, pretty much with Tal being there alongside Shigaraki, Lex Luthor, and a couple others. Lex Luthor would have been a lot more younger version of himself, him being about the same age as Daku, him being pretty much a version, he would look somewhat like, or somewhat exactly like, the redhead kid from, I think, the basketball anime? I don't remember. He would be a redhead kid, but he would be a lot more of a, taller stature, and he would not have a smiling expression, kind of a plain type rich man, businessman type of expression. And basically, as he would look at Deku, would say, this is going to be fun. Now basically, I'm going to be, pretty much the reasoning why this version of Lex Luthor is out for Deku is because he doesn't want people to rely on Deku. Since this version of Lex Luthor would have not been, this universe is Lex Luthor. This universe would have not had a Lex Luthor if it wasn't for Daku, and this would be leading up a butterfly effect. When Daku came to Earth, pretty much his pod left a little bit of an energy blast, basically in pretty much near the planet's the solar system, basically leaving open a portal. And this portal would have pretty much had a version of Lex Luthor pretty much blast through it. As this version of Lex Luthor's body would be erased from existence, his soul or his mental state would have still been intact. Him going to Earth and embodying, or him pretty much possessing a rich kid in Japan, or a rich kid in America, him realizing that he was in a different world, basically him living in that rich kid's body. Now this rich kid would be the same age as Daku, him being just born. As Lex Luthor would have to relive his whole puberty and everything again. When he was 16, he would eventually find word of Daku on sports, and he would see that he would be resembling Superman's powers a lot. Him saying that this is its world Superman, and he's starting out young. I have time to stop him before he makes everybody in the world rely on him. Plus, he would also see that, he would also see that pretty much All Might would have been this. Now, basically, he would notice that most of the quirkless people in pretty much, America and Japan were treated differently. Plus, on top of that, he would have a quirk as well. But this rich kid version of him would have had a quirk mainly for intelligence. But it wouldn't be a strong intelligence quirk. It was just boost his intelligence by 1%. But basically, Lex Luthor was already an extremely smart, a genius, basically. So he didn't really need to use his quirk at all. And basically, as this would be, we would see that pretty much, Lex Luthor would have had a grudge against heroes, saying that people without using their quirks had to rely on heroes to save them, even though they had quirks of their own and had power of their own. They had to rely on heroes that were given permission to use power. Basically, him saying that people can't defend themselves because quirks are being given to the wrong people, and he wants to control the genetic code. And basically, to be honest, he just wants to control everything and is pretty much swipe quirks away from existence and make everybody equal again. Basically, getting rid of heroes as well. Him having the same type of motivations as Overhaul, but eventually Lex Luthor will be a current villain in the series, so Overhaul will eventually be kind of the same. Overhaul and Lex Luthor will be kind of the same thing. But basically, what happened is pretty much Daku would have passed out after the kryptonite would have hit him again, and I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. Basically, part 6 is mainly going to be the whole entire rescue mission, trying to get back Bakugo and Daku. The whole entire All For One arc is going to happen. Just it being All For One is all. All For One would still been there, but also him being accompanied by, the evil version. This General Zod, or this universe's General Zod, plus Lex Luthor and Metallo, Daku having to go up against a lot more people, and him getting a lot more character development in the story. And this will be nearly like a big stepping point. And basically, part 6 and 7 are going to be a lot more action-packed and going to be a lot more about Daku finding about his heritage and his pretty much, why he was sent to Earth. The true, very deep reason why he was truly sent to Earth. Now, what'll happen is pretty much, I'm going to leave it up here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. I know the narrating was kind of all over the place, but I did the best I could, because I was trying to pop this out pretty quickly. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day.